So I guess it's, I should stand up here, not wander in the back, right? No. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Parker. Jessica's going to talk to us about opportunities and challenges out of a locally open online course. So LOOCs, what's that? Looky,
Luke,
hooky.
yeah,
Huh? Yeah. Jessica is an assistant professor in the Curriculum Studies and Secondary Education Department in the School of Education here. So she knows all the stuff here. She now studies how secondary schools integrate media literacy into academic literacy learning, and she's currently studying the development and effectiveness of online learning environments. She's the author of Teaching Tech-Savvy Kids, Bringing Digital Media into the Classroom, and has been recognized by the California State University System for producing exemplary hybrid in online courses. She's the 2014 recipient of the Sony Electronics Faculty Award for Innovative Instructions and Technology. Go, Jessica.
Thank you very much. All right. Thanks for having me. So I want to share with you an experiment we did last fall here at Sonoma State in terms of creating our own LOOC, a locally open online course. And so for me, this excitement and also kind of fear around MOOC led me to think, as an assistant professor at Sonoma State, we're very small, as you might have already noticed today, right? I don't have any need to go massive. Like, my job as a professor here is not to go massive and try to get international connections or United States connection. My job is to be committed to Marin, Sonoma, and Napa, right? Those are the counties in our area that we service. And so I thought, can I take the MOOC idea? Because for me, if I'm not going to go massive, open it online is fascinating. That to me has a real draw. And so what I wanted to do then was actually create something with the Marin County, and they were interested in doing that because we have a strong connection. And since I teach educational technology courses in the MA program, which is mainly based on teachers, whether you're pre-service, getting your credential through the state, or whether you're in service, you've been teaching anywhere from 1 to 25 years, you can come back and get an MA in curriculum with an emphasis on educational technology. Marin said, Jessica, we like you. We would love to have your courses out at the Marin County. Because if you came up from San Francisco, you notice that the freeway goes from like 5 lanes to 2 lanes. And around rush hour, it's horribly difficult to get from Marin to here for a class that starts at 4 p.m. Right? So you can imagine you're like doing this in the car because you want to hurt yourself. And so the issue then for me was I can't actually take my courses there because of accreditation issue. So bureaucracy is going to be a theme that I talk about over and over again today. And so what can I do? Well, let's create a LOOC. Let's experiment. And let's do an open online course. And so we adapted it then. So took the model of the MOOC and adapted it for a local audience. So for me as a teacher, my course is only going to be as good as based upon how well I know my students. Right? The content changes depending on, are you interested in this, Andrew? Megan, are you interested in that? Might there be a way that this content isn't making sense to you? And so I change my content. I alter the content. And yet MOOCs do not do that. MOOCs are usually, in my opinion, pre-established, set, and then you enter that and you take whatever you can get, which is a wonderful concept. But if you're working locally with educators, that content needs to adapt to them and their needs. And so the local then was working on specific Marin community of educators, which I'll talk about in a second. Open was that we're bypassing those MA graduate level admission because there's tons of requirements, as you could guess, not to mention the money, right? And then also to make sure that any Marin educator or community member could join. So it didn't have to be just someone teaching in the classroom. It could be a janitor. It could be a parent. It could be a religious leader. Come and take this course. It's open. So that was nice because our MA classes are not open. In fact, I would argue that most of our classes here are not open. They're very closed. And the last thing, of course, was an online course. So I teach hybrid courses, which means I teach face-to-face, but also online as well. So for a semester, if you hung out with me for 16 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 of those would be online modules, usually asynchronous, and the rest would be face-to-face. Graduate level courses, 3-hour courses. So it's a lot of work. So here's a snapshot then of me revising my course that's an introduction to technology, really educational technology in terms of praxis. Praxis in the sense that we're actually trying to reflect on the theory that we're reading about, but also what's happening in our classrooms. What's great about teaching is that you have an array of information to pull from as you teach on a daily basis, and yet not enough time to actually stop and reflect, like Kristen was alluding to. And so this course then gives you that time to reflect and really analyze what's happening. And so the key features highlighted then were, of course, flexibility, cost. We were going to give you a lower cost than it would be to pay tuition here if you wanted to. If not, you could have it open. So sometimes in terms of renewing your credential, you need to actually engage in professional development. And so getting that graduate level credit would count towards the state renewing your license. But it was also open, so I don't want you to think you had to pay. In fact, we found that people did not want to pay. And then the activities, some of the assignments were very authentic in the sense that you're analyzing your own history with technology, and of course, local. The people who helped me were my former graduate students who taught in the, like Kristen, who taught in the program and actually took courses and excelled. So here's the course, right? And remember, this is something that I'm doing in fall. I'm already teaching 100% here at Sonoma State. This is something I'm going to do as an experiment because in my mind, I thought, it's a LOOC, it's online. I've got it all set up and I can tweak as we go based on student need. This is going to work. So we were going to have 9 sessions, 3 face-to-face with the beginning orientation. Nice to meet you. You look great. Happy to be here. How can I help you? We're going to do our thing. We're going to have a Maker Day out in Marin County. Maker is a huge movement here in Northern California and hopefully across the world, where we'd actually go and see what STEM educators at a middle school were doing with making in terms of maker culture. And if you need more information about that, I'm happy to give it to you. And then also at the last day of class would be a share case where we came back. So we would have 3 face-to-face sessions, and then the other 6 would be 2 synchronous meetings where we had a guest speaker or we're working together at the simultaneously to actually engage in a reading, and then 4 asynchronous kind of standalone modules where students would read through whether it was podcasts, videos, readings, etc., and then actually respond to each other back and forth, whether it was a forum, voice thread, different ways for them to interact, not face-to-face and online. And you'll also notice down at the bottom, the assessments, no grades. And so this was an open course. People were probably not going to be paying for it. There's no reason for me to give them grades or for the people that were assisting me. So we did it based on instructor and peer-based feedback. So you're getting constant feedback and you're also getting digital badges. And if you want me to talk about digital badges some other time, I'm happy to do so. So that's the course. Let's talk about bureaucracy though. If you're a CTO, how can you create a LOOC if someone is interested in that? The problem with our system here is that my salary is dependent on the seats that I fill of those people that actually pay money. And so if they don't pay, that means I end up doing it for free. And you can see where I'm going here, because no one wanted to pay. I'm teaching 100% already, and I'm doing this. My calculation that people would want to pay and get those grad units did not pan out based on the demographics of the students. Also, the IT support, since we were using Moodle, we had, it's an open course, and yet IT would not let me have an open Moodle site. So it became this tension between it's an open course, but it's closed. So therefore, I had to actually get everyone's information, register them in Moodle, give that to IT. IT would get them in. It became a huge headache, as you can imagine, since I don't usually spend my time doing that stuff, right? That's why, in my mind, that's why we have an IT department. But logistics here. And the other thing in terms of paperwork, MOU, you have to reserve rooms. There was a lot to get this off the ground. And some of the slides I've gave you, I'm not going to review, but I just gave you for your own visual interpretation, so I'm going to skip some of those, but feel free to ask questions if you have them. Let's talk about the students then. You know in MOOCs, everyone signs up, and then you have to half it about the minute you say, okay, let's actually have the course start. And so we had admin, teachers, tech directors, educational organizations like KQED sign up with 38 participants, and they were from the local area. Oh, wow, you're not giving me enough. You cut off 3 minutes. Yeah. I'll keep going. That's all right. And so when we actually discussed who were the students, they ended up being 56% were above the age of 50. Okay. So here's the tension here between creating a LOOC and then realizing that your students are mostly above the age of 50. They don't want online. They want face-to-face. And yet I've created a course in which the majority of the time is going to be online. And so now you see the tension between one of the O's in LOOCs and what the students need. So we ended up actually having to change that because that's what they wanted. They wanted more face-to-face time. We could provide that. The other thing is they're highly educated. 70% of them already had an MA. They don't need more grad units. And so okay, Jessica is going to end up doing this for free for 9 weeks, which is part of the reason why I still have bags underneath my eyes. And also, they were familiar with new media technologies, which is fascinating, right? Here they are signing up for an intro to ed tech, even though they're familiar. when we asked them, what do you want in terms of what are you interested in learning about, they wanted Edmodo, which is an educational social network, mind mapping tools that the students could use, presentation tools, and screencasting. And so that information then led us to actually change the content of the course based upon their needs, which is something that you normally will not see in a MOOC, but hopefully you will see in a LOOC. Yeah, come on in. So here you can just see briefly that we had to cross out assignments based on things that were going to happen online. We revised the number of face-to-face class meetings. We got rid of an asynchronous meeting instead. And here's how we supported students in the online environment. With low barrier of entry activities, we had to create tutorials and cheat sheets. We found that they were not reading because they're teaching full-time as well, not paying for a course. So there's ways that it's open. They don't have to be there. There's not that commitment once you invest financially. We created reading cheat sheets for them. And then we also offered increased office hours and face-to-face time with them as well. The last thing, too, is we also added weekly email reminders because they're so inundated with stuff they have to do in their current job. This was a way to keep in contact. Here's the lesson learned, is that there was definitely a tension between the openness of the course and the free labor from me. And so that's something to think about as well, is how is your institution going to support this if this is a great idea and your teachers or your educators or local community members want this? How does that happen? Because within this structure, it did not work. The age and tech experience of students was in tension with the online course. That's something to think about. You might want to have a tiered approach to maybe this is entry-level LOOC where you get the older folks, and this is maybe another tiered types of LOOC that is based on higher level technical support and need. The celebrated successes, we tweaked the course throughout. It was a totally different course from when we started. The collaborative revision process based on me, the folks that were helping me, and the students was amazing. Not often that students get to actually say, this is how I want the course to change. And the course were very appreciative of what we did. Last thing, as I said, the option of the LOOC is not sustainable here at Sonoma State currently. And so when we talk about MOOCs, we have to remember that this is about money and resources. And as you might have guessed, Sonoma State doesn't have a ton of them compared to the Yales, Harvards, Stanfords that are doing this like it's easy. So hopefully this gave you a taste of what we did. And those are some issues to rethink as well. The students said definitely time should not have been in fall. We have to do things in summer. Always summer, 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 summer. So.
And we have time for a few questions.
Oh, wonderful.
Great work.
Yeah, we got there.
Aren't there aren't there opportunities for county offices to work to get teachers to go through these or paying? There are ways to do that.
Yeah, they can finagle it. Yeah, especially now with the Common Core. Yeah. So there's definitely money for this. All right, great. Thank you very much.